of parameters, and that parameter will have what is the latest value or what is the current value of that input field. Okay, so first of all, let's add an event. So we need to add a life change event in input field. So you can simply copy this life change, and this is the input field. I'm going to add life change equal to, and in double quotes, I will provide the event name now. Okay, so what is the event name? Life change. Now within a double quotes, we have to provide a name of that method. So this is a user defined method. So you can give any name. So let's say I want to handle life change. So this is my function name now. Okay, so life change equal to handle life change. So that's it. Now just copy that. Now where we need to add a code for this event? Inside the controller. Okay, because for every view, as I said, if any logic you want to add, any validation or any function call or any logic if you want to add, so associated controller file for this view file is registration page only, because on the top you can see there is a controller name. So this controller will be responsible for managing this view file. So whatever logic I want to add, I will add it inside the controller.js file. So go back to registration page.controller.js file. Now this is how our controller.js file will look like. Okay, so this is how it will look like. So let's explain me about this, the structure. What is the structure here? And then we'll see how we can utilize this structure for the further coding. Guys, any question here for adding a life change event? Any question or anything you want to ask here?
So we can add any number of events or there is nothing
Yes,
about
you can add any number of events. Like for example, for input field only there are like few events, like we have life change event, we have submit, suggest. So all these are events. So you can use all these events within a same input field control. Okay, that's possible. It's not like only one event you can add. You can add a couple of events, but make sure that if you're using a same type of event, like event is same and it is not required to be added, because similar event you have already added for that input field. In that case, you can ignore one event. Okay, because if two events are playing the same role, then in that case, why you need two different events? Two similar events, why you need that? You can use any one of them. Yeah, but every event has its own responsibilities or own feature, like for submit. So this submit event, like whenever you're adding any value and if you're hitting enter, if you're pressing on enter key, that automatically this submit event will trigger. Okay, see, this event is fired when user presses the enter key on the input field. So you might have seen in any login screen or login pages, whenever you're entering value at the last, and as soon as you enter, automatically the submit button or submit button, like it will trigger the rest of the code, right? So you might have seen that kind of functionality in any web pages. So as soon as you enter within that input field, like it will trigger a submit. So you can also use this submit functionality or submit event within that input field. Okay, so let's add now. So we added this life change event. Now it's time to add this piece of code inside the controller. So before you add, so let's discuss what is the structure here. So in controller, your structure will always start from sap.ui.define. Okay, so it is like a asynchronous module definition in which you can load your modules similar to the XML. So in case of view, we can add XML namespace equal to library name. But in case of controller, this is how your libraries are loaded in a format of modules. So every library you're loading here, we generally call it as a module. Okay, so for example, I want to load same simple form module, right? So for using a simple form control, we have loaded this module. So let's say if you want to load that module, similarly in case of controller, so you can search for simple form here. You can click on the simple form and there will be one option module. Can you see this option as a module? Okay, so you can copy this entire module as it is, and you can directly paste here like this. This is how we are loading. See, now the question would be, in case of XML, we have only added form, but apart from that, we didn't added simple form after the form, because in XML, you can directly use this form and it should be able to identify this control. But in case of controller, like for every control, we have to add individually all the modules. OK, from start to end, that is required. So somewhat like the steps are little bit different in case of controller. OK, so for every library, if you want to use, so there will be one option on the top as a module. So you can just copy that module and you can paste that in a double quotes within this. OK, so one more change, what will be the change? Like you might have seen dot here for every module, for every library, there is dot. But in case of JavaScript, that dot is replaced with the slash. OK, so that is the difference. One more difference that we have to always take care in case of controller. So if you're adding any library within this, so that dot has to be replaced with the slash. Let's say if you're using this dot as it is, so it will not work. OK, I'll show you the inspect. See, so this is how the error you will get. What it says, failed to load sap.ui.layout.form from the resource, because the same piece of syntax will not work in case of controller. So in controller, this is what the syntax we have to follow. So in sap.ui.define inside. So this is the module definition what we have here. OK, it is a module definition. Next parameter is function. So guys, this is a function here. OK, sap.ui.define, it is one kind of definition, and it is like a JavaScript definition which will help you to load modules at the same time. And at the same time, there is one callback function which will be triggered once all the modules are loaded. OK, so this is like the second parameter what we have. It is a factory function, which you can also call it as a callback function. So what is the purpose of this function is, so let's say I'm loading couple of libraries here in this module definition. OK, I'm loading couple of libraries, and this library information I have to pass in this function parameter. So these are all parameters this function can take, right? Or it can accept. So each library or each module you can easily identify with the help of parameters. So for simple form also I can give one more parameters. So if I'm adding one more parameter for the layout also, that also you can add it here within this function parameters. So every module definition, it is a parameter in this callback function. And when this function will be triggered once all the libraries are loaded. Because this function execution, first of all, it depends on these libraries. Let's say I'm adding a logic based on the simple form. OK, I'm adding a logic based on simple form, but simple form itself is not loaded. So do you think that my rest piece of code will work? It will not work, right? Because the library itself is not available. It will directly throw the error. So the best step is what it will do, like this sap.ui.define, it will make sure that first it will load all the modules. Once all the libraries or modules are available, then it will trigger this function. And now inside this function, the sequence of modules, the way we have defined the modules, in similar way, we have to define our parameters. So first you can see we have defined the library for the controller. So first parameter is the controller. Like as I said, whatever the last keyword is there for this library, that keyword you can use it as a parameters. OK, guys, I guess my system it got restarted. Sorry, wait. Guys, any questions here?
No.
So here, regarding this live change event, so we are entering the characters,
Yes,
that are
yes.
alphabet. Okay. Is it in the, with the live change event? Is it possible to restrict the not to enter the numerics?
Yeah, yeah, yes. So like, as I said, for input, there is also type property.
Okay.
See, there is a type property for input field, and here you can specify whether you need email, number, password. So yeah, that functionality is there already,
I
similar to
mean, suppose
HTML.
it is a numeric. Okay. So in the numeric, I it should not allow me to enter greater than
Text.
8. Greater than 8.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's say if I see this is the input field, and this is a free text only, first of all.
Okay.
So and then default value for this input field always it is going to be text. But let's say I want to make this as a number. So when I
Okay.
make this as a number, so what will happen in that case? It won't allow us to enter text value. Okay. So let's see that once. So
Yeah.
I made that type as a number now. And now see, this is the first input field. So let's say I'm going to type text here. See, it's not allowing me to type. I'm typing here, but it's not allowing to enter any character. But same, if I enter number, see, it's allowing now.
Okay. I mean, if I don't want to enter more than 5.
More than 5, right? So you can
Yeah.
add one more property here directly, max length.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a max length property, and here you can simply specify 5. So
Okay.
let's
Now we can
say,
add. Okay. 6 we
yeah,
cannot enter.
yes,
Okay.
you can add that. As soon as you add max length equal to 5, so apart from like more than 5 characters are not allowed. Okay.
Not characters.
No, no,
I'm.
sorry,
It's
sorry.
a. I mean, like I don't want to uh, allow 6. Like suppose number of hours we are entering. Okay. So more than 5 hours, it should not allow me.
So it depends, like you can use max length or you can add a validation for that. So both ways it will work.
Because I
Okay.
have seen that application in one of that, so it is not allowing me zero more than 8 hours. Even it is not allowing me to type also.
Yeah, even it is not. Yes, yes. See, now it's not allowing me to type. I'm typing here. Apart from 5, I'm not able to type anything.
This is length. I'm asking at the numerics.
You're talking about numerics, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
see, as soon as I add a type as a number, and if I add a max length equal to 5, my max length property will not work. Okay. So
Like
why
a
Sorry.
it is?
pattern. I think he's asking about the
Hello.
pattern.
No, actually, he is asking a number greater than 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
number
that
get
only.
not
It
lengthy.
should not allow. It should not allow me to enter 6, 7. It should
Yeah.
allow the numbers below
0 to
5
5.
or 5 equal to 5. Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about the you're not talking about the length. You're talking about
No,
the
no, no.
value.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
talking about the length.
Okay, okay. So that is possible now. So there is no problem with that. You
The
you
not
simply need to add a validation for that. Okay, so let's do that now. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'll just make it as a, let's consider, I'll make a type as a number
Yeah. Okay.
or anything. See, like if you're adding a number also, that's fine. Okay, so let's make this type as a number. And now I'm going to add a validation. So I'll copy this handle light change. Okay. So now as we discuss about the definition this is a module definition, and after that there is a callback function. Okay. Then after that on line number 9, you can see there is one keyword use trick. So the purpose of use trick is it will not allow any developer to use any variables without declaring it. Okay, that is the main purpose of use trick. So it will follow the strict validation. It will identify if any variables are not declared. And if let's say if I'm using any variable, but it is not declared, and you're directly using the using that variables. So to identify such variables, this keyword is used. Okay, use trick. So it will allow us to do the development in strict mode just by following a best practice for the JavaScript. Like declaring variable can be done with the help of var keyword. Okay, var or let or const. So declaration is mandatory. After that, you can use that variable. Okay, so that is the purpose. On line number 11, we have one return keyword. So in return, whatever the controller we have loaded. So based on that, we have created one subclass. And in this subclass, like I need a subclass to be created for this registration page. So that's what the path we have defined here. So it's extending some feature from the controller. So controller now in this case, controller, it is like a main class or base class, you can say. And from controller, I'm creating my subclass. So I'm creating internally, I'm creating subclass by extending some features from the controller. And now if I want to use any features from the controller, that you can easily use. But that's how the structure we have to follow. This is like a standard code. There is no explanation in that. Like we have to follow this syntax every time. Okay, like similar to view, how the syntax is there for the view and all. So same syntax, it is little bit different in case of controller, and we have to follow this syntax for development purpose. So now let's add the function now. Okay, so guys, I'll explain this lifecycle method. So there is a concept of lifecycle methods in this controller part. I'll explain that later. Okay, so after this on init, you can simply give comma, and now here we can define the function name. So guys, you might have seen I have explained you about the syntax of objects, right? I have explained you syntax of the object. So can you see this is the object here, right? So this is the object which is starting at line number 11 and it is ending at line number 16. So this is the 16 line number and it is starting from the 11. Now within this object, I want to add a methods. So what I said, object, it is a collection of properties and methods. So onInit method is already added now. Now I need to add one more method. So first of all, I have to provide name of method. So what is the name of method? Handle live change. Handle live change. Then we have to give colon and then we have to write function keyword. And now again followed by parenthesis and then write opening and closing curly brackets. This is the syntax what we have to follow in case of UI5. So this syntax is like the way we declare or way we define object, and inside the object the way we define methods. That same syntax we have to follow in case of UI5. So that's what I told you, like object is very important to understand in JavaScript. Once you know how object works, same feature, like you can use that object concept here also, because UI5 framework is completely built on top of JavaScript only. So the features which are applicable for JavaScript, same features you can use it in UI5 as well. So we added handle live change here, and now I'm going to add one O event here. So this is like a parameter, guys. So you can give any parameter name, doesn't matter. I'm just following my best practice. OK, so you can give any name to this parameter, but I'm just following best practice O event. So this is like an event, and in this event, we will have some information. Because this function, when it will trigger, so this event will carry, or this parameter will carry some information which is required for us for the further validation. OK, so let's add a debugger keyword now, and I'm going to debug this code now. OK, so I just added a debugger keyword inside this function. So let's debug this code now. OK, so right click here, inspect. Now where we have to go to debug this code? Inside the sources. Go to sources, and now here on left hand side you can see we have a folder structure for controller, CSS, model, resources and utils, but you will not see folder for XML or for view, because view code or XML code you cannot debug, right? So that's why only the code related to the JavaScript is available most of the time. So inside the controller, we have the file, expand the controller file. So which is our file? Registration page.controller.js file. Double click on it. Now this file will be opened in the right hand side time. Now here you can already see we have a breakpoint here, right? See, I can also remove that, but let it be as it is. Automatically our debugger will trigger. So now I'm going to enter a value as 1. Okay, so I'm entering value as 1. See, as soon as I type 1, automatically debugger it got triggered. Okay, so debugger is active now, and on line number 16 we have a breakpoint. How it is happening? It is happening because of live change event. So this live change event, it will be triggered at each keystroke. Okay, so if I'm entering a single character or any number, so it will activate your debugger, or it will trigger that live change event. So the method which I have declared for live change event, now it is triggered. So now we have a breakpoint at line number 16. Now let's see what information we have within this O event. So you can copy this O event, go to source, clear this console, and just paste that O event. Now can you see we have a various information within this O event. So we have a information of parameters in which I can see new value, in which we have 1, value is 1. So at least we can see what value we are getting from that parameter, right? So this is what the value we have within that parameter or within this input field. So only that value who is carrying, O event is carrying. So this parameter is carrying all this information, and it's also carrying information of its own control. So I'll tell you what is O source after that. Okay, let's continue this debugger and let's add one more text. Okay, so now this time again, if I say O event, now the current value will be 12, right? 1, 2, and new value is 1, 2. So based on the condition that you guys want to check, let's say I don't want the value to be more than 5. That's what the validation we want to add, right? So first of all, let's see how to get that value. So to get this value, so we have these values or these values inside the M parameters, right? So there is one M parameter. Within that we have 3 properties here: ID, new value, and value. So this is in a format of object only. Okay, so you can type O event dot, there is a standard function get parameters. And now inside the get parameter, you can pass property name. So I want to get the value from the property value. Sorry, this is the first constructor. Yeah, from the value or new value, both will have the current value only. And just pass that. That's it. Now can you see we got the value as 12, right? So this is how you can access the value from the input field. So I'll copy this. I'll go back here. And now I'll simply write here. I'll write current value equal to the code which I am copied from the console. O event dot get parameter, and inside that I have passed new value as a property name. Now we already know, like in the current value, this variable variable will hold the value of input field. Now from here, based on this, I want to check the validation. If current value, so what is the value that we are getting from the input field? We are getting that in a string format, right? We are getting that in the string format. So do you think that we can check the condition for number? No, right? Because the value is in the string format. We have to convert this value from string to number. So how to do that? So for that you can use number method. Number. And now inside the number.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Seth. Any?
If I add in the form, the
Mhm.
input field is the number, then also it will come in the string format.
Yes, yes, because like every input field, like if you're adding a number or if you're adding a character, anything you add, input field will always return the value in string format.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so explicitly we have to convert that value. So now I'm checking the validation. So before I check the validation, I have typecasted it. Okay, the value that we have, I have converted that value from string to number by using the number keyword, by using a number method. Now, of course, like after adding a number method, so whatever the value I'm getting now inside that, it will be number. So now I'll check here. If that number, if it is greater than 5, if it is greater than 5, so I'll make that input field in red color. So how to make that input field in red color? Now there are two options. First of all, we want to make this input field in a red color. How to access this input field? How to access this input field in controller? So there are two ways to access this input field. First of all, by giving a ID, like you can give a ID property, and inside the ID you can provide any ID name like ID first name, or you can just add it is a INP. OK, so this is the ID for the input field. Now how to access this ID inside the controller? So the code for that is I'm creating one more variable. So it is my input field for first name. So here I can add this dot get view dot by ID. Now inside the ID, I will pass the ID name and then I'll give the colon. So now I'll tell you the code, the reason of the explanation for this code. OK, so what is this? This is referring to the controller. OK, now this keyword, it is referring to the controller. Now for this controller, who is the associated view file? So of course, this is the registration page.view.xml file, right? So it is the view which is associated with this controller file. So whenever you want to access, whenever you want to access a view file with respect to this controller, you can use or you can call the method getView. So now it will get the view of this controller, which is this, and then from that view, if any control you want to access, for that we have to call a standard method by ID. And now inside by ID, we should pass the ID of that input field. OK, but make sure that this ID we should add, then only it will identify that control. If you're not adding this ID, then how it will call it?